Yes, yes.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and good night. Uh, these are the way I think it's the latest vogue where people start greeting each other. It used to be good evening, good morning, ẹ káàárọ̀, ẹ káàsán, ẹ káalẹ́ o. But you see, at the because some people, and genuinely, some people are now sleeping. When you go to a place like Australia, there is a huge 13 hours difference. Again, depends on where you are. Might be a closer hours when you live in New Zealand or whatever. But from where I am now, and my guests, we are in the UK, and it is the difference of 13 hours as we speak. I want to welcome. I want to welcome my viewers and the friends and lovers of Otumba who latest show. As usual, um, I don't need to go through the protocol again than to let you know that my guests, most of my guests are just of people of very well matured, high caliber, people who knows their onions, people who can understand when we ask questions, and people that will have the time to take all form of contributions. Let me use that word. I'm very cautious. All form of contributions to make sure that everybody is okay. Now, tonight, I have an old friend. He's an old friend in the sense that we know each other many, many, many years back. But then for some reasons, oníkálukú gbọ̀nà ẹ̀ lọ. We part ways. I left Nigeria in 1970, and I'm sure he. Uh, Shola, when did you leave again Nigeria? How many years back?
74.
74.
74.
Yes, it's about right. So here we are today. I'm very pleased to tell you that this this man in front of you all is a highly successful man. He has used the time he spent in Europe to achieve so many things. He is a surgeon, he's a lawyer, he's all kind of things. But I'm going to get him to introduce himself to you. And please, viewers, bear with us. I'll be mixing Yoruba and English. Where possible, I'm going to speak some German, but that's just a joke. Don't worry. I'll try as much as possible to be on the English time. Again, nobody marks anybody's English anymore. I think that's a good news. Because fear of it, how many montabon, tabon when Queen was alive. I remember I have people, somebody with me that say, Mama Tigba good. So English is just a communication language. It's not do or die. So don't worry if you want to join this show, you want to speak Yoruba or English, that's fine. Go ahead. And if you have knack to speak in German, I speak German. I can translate. So having said all this, the only other thing, tí mo fẹ́ bẹ̀ wá fún kẹjọ, it took me a long time to know wípé ẹ bá wa share, ẹ bá wa love, ẹ bá wa like, ẹ bá wa ṣe nǹkan. Genuinely, I wasn't really much bothered about it. Just the number of people that are switching was more than enough. I just expect them, they will say, okay, this was the show. So, and the reason for that now is so many people can enjoy, many people can see this show. That's why presenters or host people say, "Eba wa share, eba wa like it, eba wa subscribe," and then they press the notification button because of next time. So every time I go online, you'll be notified. You'll be notificated.
Right.
Abi?
Right.
Yes, notified. Yeah. So then you can join. Ṣé ẹ ti pé mo sọ pé English ò ń ṣe bí kinní kan bẹ́ẹ̀ bàbá yìí àwọn olóyìnbó ni so wá fẹ́ correct bẹ́ẹ̀ máa kàn sọ pé look ìyẹn lẹ̀. So without further ado, let me get Báṣẹ̀gun Alábẹ to introduce himself to you viewers. Alagba Sola, Dr. Chief Oni, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good evening, viewers. I'm Sola Oni, Báṣẹ̀gun Alábẹ. I'm an orthopedic surgeon by trade. Um, Trained originally at Harvard before coming to the UK to train as a surgeon. And somewhere along the line, I got qualifications in law. Somewhere along the line, I became what they call in this country judicial office holder. Not quite a judge, but you sit with a judge and you make decisions with a judge. So that's why you are called a judicial office holder. That's really there's not much more to say. I am really more interested in you hearing what I have to say rather than telling you about myself, because we're all in this together, and it doesn't matter who you are or what you are or what you've achieved. The essential things are we are in this together, and we have to find a way out of the morass. Thank you, Otumba, for inviting me to speak to your audience. I hope we will enjoy each other's company tonight.
I can tell you for free, it's going to be a great show. And yeah, maybe you forget to say this is not your first time. I think
Yeah.
I don't want to exaggerate. It could be the second or third time, but anyway, you've been on my show before, and
Yes.
like I said, for our viewers, you will enjoy the show because my show. I'm sorry every time I invoke, I make reference to uh, the age or whatever. It's not that I want to get that. It's just to let you know that old wine are usually better than. I'm not trying to bully or say no, but that is the truth. The truth is, um, irú àwọn ọ̀rùngbọ̀n funfun báyìí ẹni pé kò ṣe èèyàn lè kọ lọ sí Tesco kẹ lọ pick it up kò possible. Tesco will tell you pé how old are you and you say oh I'm just 50 something like oh no irú àwọn ọ̀rùngbọ̀n irú eléyìí ti ọ̀rẹ́ mi yìí you have to be able you're in your 70s so that you can get better part of it. Anyway, now tonight I want to go through a couple of issues, Chola,
Okay.
and I believe in that whatever we say, whatever we do, are going to be can be used against you and I because we are going to be open. Open. This is an open discussion.
Yeah.
There are certain area we might not need to go there, but there are some area that we just need to talk about it. Just I have a caller. Just 1 second, please. Um, just 1 second, just. Hello, mo ti send the link yẹn sí ẹ, ṣé wàá wo ṣé wàá rí? Okay. Just 1 second, Sola. We just it's a long distance call. Just 1 second. Hello, is the show started? So to link up. I've just sent the link to you again. Okay, okay, all right. So basically, it's a show where I guarantee our viewers that you're going to get the best of it. I'm direct, and I'll tell you why I'm direct. This show is not monetized in any form, and I don't think it's going to be monetized so soon. So that's why what I have left is openness, dedication to the truth. Let me start by asking you one question, which is very germane to this show tonight. Um, as we speak now, and I remember very well, uh, about 2 years ago when we got reconnected. It was when you were uh, elected as the uh, chairman of Lano UK chapter. What is the present situation with your position as of then and now?
I'm not sure anything has really changed.
Okay.
Um, we are still interested in Yoruba Nation, and Yoruba Nation is bigger than every single one of us. Is bigger than every organization. And I think one of the problems that we have as Yoruba is that we concentrate so much on organization we concentrate so much on leadership, on leaders, that we don't do what is necessary to do. And therefore, I'm beginning to move away from this idea that you go through a leader for everything, you go through an organization for everything, because the past year or 2 years has shown that it doesn't work that way. The sad aspect of it is that we haven't really moved very far, partly because I don't want to be insulting, but I think partly because we don't seem to think very deeply. We seem to be looking for quick fix all the time, for quick answers, and for a race of people who are as intelligent as we are, as Yoruba, it is very disappointing that we really don't think very deeply about anything. We just, if you form an organization, therefore that's the solution. And we spend so much energy on the organization rather than on the business of liberating Yoruba land. Now, I also need to start from the beginning to let your viewers know that I'm not a politician, and I have absolutely no interest in politics at all. I have no interest in the politics of Nigeria. I couldn't care less. And people who are on my Twitter space, I've told them, anybody who brings Nigerian politics to my Twitter space, I unfollow them and block them from my space. I am not interested. My only interest is, how do we get out of Nigeria? How do we Yoruba get out of Nigeria? Anything else is irrelevant to me. And I think one of the problems that we have as people, as a group, is that we really don't appreciate how formidable Nigeria is. We really do not understand that. We think, oh, well, that's all that is required. Nigeria is a formidable enemy. Remember, Nigeria has been in existence for over 100 years,
Yes.
in fact, and over 60 years as an independent nation. So in that period, you formed alliances. Remember, our politicians, they take our money abroad to Dubai, and all those people don't want Nigeria to break up. The people who sell us arms, who sell us fighter aircraft, who sell us bullets, they don't want Nigeria to break up. So Nigeria is formidable. And then our politicians, our traditional rulers, they don't want Nigeria to break up either, because they are getting part of the cake. They're sharing the cake amongst themselves. So they don't want Nigeria to break up. So when those of us who are campaigning for Yoruba Nation, I was just looking at a Twitter feed from one of the police officers in Lagos talking about agitators. It's an insult. We're campaigners.
Yes. Thank you very much.
We're not agitating anything.
Yes. Thank you.
We are entitled to have a country of our own. Our own country. On what basis? What do we owe Nigeria that means we cannot leave Nigeria? We don't owe Nigeria anything. We don't owe anybody anything. We can stand on our own. So the reason why I'm saying all this is that sometimes we are too glib. We are too glib. I can repeat about it. Lanu sile òmìnira ti dé nìyẹn. It is not that easy at all. Every single, and the other thing that people don't realize is this: when you start complaining, Fulani did this, Fulani did that, and you are telling the world, they don't care. The Western world, black lives don't matter to white people. They couldn't. You could kill yourselves. They couldn't care less. Look at what happened in Rwanda. People are being massacred, and all these people stood by and watched it. It wouldn't happen in Ukraine.
At all.
It wouldn't happen in Yugoslavia. They will intervene. And yet they watched the people of Rwanda slaughtering each other, and they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. So when I say we have a formidable fight on our hand, I mean we have a formidable fight on our. Not only are we having to fight Nigeria, we're also having to fight all these other people who they don't care whether Nigeria breaks up or not. That's not that. They couldn't care less. But they are not going to do anything as long as Nigeria is profitable to them. Yes. So if anybody thinks that this is some kind of easy street, that this is like we are on the football pitch or something. No. This is a very, very serious matter. And I will be blunt. Mega rallies are not going to do it. What mega rallies do is to inform. Particularly, it informs activists. It enthuses activists. You know, it supports them. And also, signatures are not going to get you anything. All that the signature does is to say, these are my supporters. That's it. It tells the world that I'm being supported by a number of people. It still wouldn't get you Yoruba self-determination. And simply standing on the sideline and making declarations, that's not going to get you Yoruba nation either. And the reason why it's not going to get you, I'll explain why. There are only two groups. There are only two groups that have the mandate to declare Yoruba nation. Two groups. Number one, the traditional rulers could do it. Our traditional rulers were more powerful than the politicians in the earliest days of colonialism. You know, in 1933, we had a conference of Obas. That conference of Obas was the one that became the House of Chiefs in Western region.
Yes.
They were the people that the colonialists, the British, were talking to in the 30s. This traditional rulers. So, I mean, you know, when people like Onyofife went to the UK, it was a state visit. When the Queen came, you know, you came to one of their palaces. That's how powerful they were. So the traditional rulers in Yoruba land have a mandate which they can use to declare Yoruba nation. Their mandate is traditional mandate, it's customary mandate. So they could do that. The only other group that have a mandate, which is a political mandate, are the governors. The governors could come together and say, we declare Yoruba nation. And not a single person in Nigeria could do anything about it. Look at the 12 Arewa governors. They decided that they were going to have Sharia customary law.
Yeah.
Who stopped them? Nobody. Nobody could stop them. So if today, for example, the governors decide that the only language we are going to speak in Yoruba land is Yoruba, that the only law that is going to be practiced in Yoruba land, the primary law, is Yoruba law, they could do all that. But these are our politicians. Either they are not clever enough, or they are cowards, or something is wrong with them.
Or they're just retarded set of people.
Well, something is wrong with them that they are not able to assert themselves like the Arewa governors could assert themselves. Mm-hmm. It is something that I've never really been able to understand. Let me give you an example. There was a court judgment in Ibadan about 1968 about open grazing of cattle.
Yes.
That judgment banned open grazing of cattle in Western region. Today, This Fulani bring their cattle and then you go and meet and you'll be discussing. The law is there. It says it says nobody has a right to go onto your farm with their cattle. It doesn't matter whether that's their tradition. The tradition, that's their tradition, it's not yours. Their tradition does not override your tradition. They cannot come to your land to graze their cattle. There's a judgment like that. And yet, what do these people do? They go and be meeting somewhere. They're going to say, we ban this. The law has already banned it. It's already banned by law. Nobody has appealed that judgment. And if a judgment is not appealed, it is the law of the land.
Remains so. Absolutely.
Yeah. So those are the two groups that have the mandate. The traditional rulers, because they have the traditional mandate. The governors, because they have political mandate. Unfortunately for us, both groups are lily-livered. That's the sad aspect. They could do it.
But
what I can't understand from all of these people is this, and it is a question that I always ask One Nigeria people. I ask the question, what can Nigeria offer you that Yoruba nation cannot offer you? Just one thing. Tell me one thing. What is it that the 30, 50 million Yoruba people living in Nigeria, why can they not have a country of their own? And I'm still waiting for the answer. I'm still waiting for somebody to tell me what Nigeria has to offer that Yoruba land as a country cannot offer. But how many, what is the population of Barbados?
Less than,
500,000 people.
Exactly, less than 2 million.
They have the same vote at the United Nations as Nigeria with 200 million. Oriwa, Koperara, we are stupid.
When I said,
we are absolutely stupid.
I said you didn't say anything, but I cannot. We are very stupid. Because now, let me quickly ask you to walk me through this. They are quite okay. They are like part of history. But the question again is it not right to say, even though I'm also in the legal something, is it not right to say that some of these arguments have been visited and have been reviewed, have been reenacted, have been rearranged, readdressed by the supreme law of the country, which is the latest one, is the contracted 1999 Constitution. How do you tell our viewers, because you said, because what I'm trying to say is the Obas you are talking about, the Obas, the assembly, their participation in governance in Nigeria, as we speak, it has been overtaken by mere chairmen. So how can the Obas now gather themselves together and say, you know what, we want to declare this and that? Can you walk us through that? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, they don't need a political what do you call it, excuse or a political mandate, or they don't need the permission of politicians to do it. They are traditional rulers. It doesn't actually, at the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter how they became traditional rulers. They are our traditional rulers. They have traditional mandates. And they can meet together and say, we want Yoruba nation. There's nobody can stop them. Imagine if, say, they met at Ibadan, our traditional rulers, and then the police will come and do what? Beat them up. And what? This is the problem. At the end of the day, you only have one life anyway. What is the purpose of your life as a traditional ruler if you can't do anything for your own people? What's the point? So the reason why they are unable to do anything has nothing to do with politicians. It has to do with the caliber of people they are. And I say this as somebody I'm a Yoruba traditionalist. I'm a Yoruba monarchist. I believe in the Oba system. And I've written about it many, many times. I believe that the best government system for Yoruba land is the Oba system. And I will defend that to any level. But we are unfortunate that the people who call themselves Obas today are too lily-livered. They're too yellow-livered. They're too chicken. No charisma, no anything. And yet, when politicians say election, they go to the palaces, don't they?
Benny.
Why do they go to the palaces? Because the Oba is the closest person to the people. The politicians are not as close to the people as the Obas, you know.
Benny.
The closest person, the closest one to the people is the Oba. The politician, you only see them at election time. The Oba is there every day. And yet, they allow alone. How much money are they giving you that is so big, that is so, twist your mind, that the traditional role that God has given you, you cannot fulfill it? So anyway, what I was trying to say so that people will understand it is this.
Yes.
There are only two groups that can make declaration of Yoruba nation. Two groups are the only ones with the mandate. The traditional rulers, because of their traditional authority, and the governors, because of their political authority. Anybody else who tells you that they are making a declaration, they're talking nonsense. Because you haven't got anything behind it.
We need to be very careful here. When you say they are talking nonsense, as we speak, Sola, you and I know that there's a declaration made on the 20th of November, and it started with reclamation, occupation, and then what they are doing now is acquisition or so. Sometimes when you see this kind of thing, how do you react to someone that says, "Oh, wọ́n ti ṣe declaration, àwọn èèyàn ti sọ pé bàdé ń sìn wọ́n ṣe reclamation, wọ́n dẹ̀ ti ṣe occupation."
And if you do, on what mandate?
Well,
on what mandate? I mean, I am sitting in front of you now. I can't say I declare Yoruba nation. It's meaningless. It may impress you as my friend. It may impress everybody else listening to me, but it is meaningless because you don't have the mandate. You have to have a mandate of some description before you can make that kind of that. An individual can do it, but it has to be for example, Yasser Arafat represented the Palestinians for many years.
Yes.
Was the sole representative everywhere. But the way that they did it is different. They didn't just sit down and say we declare Palestinian nation. The man went from capital to capital, meeting people, going to the UN, doing this, running around the whole place. He didn't sit down somewhere and just declared. And even now, Palestine is still not free.
75 years on.
So I mean, go on.
Yeah, and it's also a little bit what German will say lächerlich. Lächerlich is like making laughing stock, making ridicule our collective sense of whatever. And like you started in your introduction, the large number of us that are well informed, educated, and but then it's sad to see that someone somehow still managing to take us for a ride, taking us for a fool, because as you just said now, the official their official way, the other way maybe probably to add to what you said, maybe through if there were to have been referendum in the constitution of the country, people can take advantage of referendum and say they want to vote. Even though that referendum is also not 100% guarantee. When you look at what happened in the UK, when single person took the whole country of about 70 million out of a buoyant a group of companies, you understand? That's another story for another day. But let me move on by asking you now. You wrote a letter not long ago, Shola, to the Prime Minister of the UK. What exactly is in the letter, and what are your expectations, and what are the possible benefits for our race?
Okay. Let me just, I think probably it's important to explain British law a little bit,
Okay.
because people might not understand the way the law works here. First of all, if you are going to sue somebody in a civil case, like a judicial review, you have to inform that person to say, I'm taking you to court
Yes.
on such a date. What do what's your response? He can say, go ahead, go to court, I don't care. He can say, let us negotiate. So the letter to Mr. Sunak is to say that we have a case. We want to take you to court. What do you say about it? That's there. But it's important to explain the way that British law works. Now, everybody blames Lord Lugard for the 1914 amalgamation. Lugard didn't do it on his own volition. Lugard didn't one day decide, I'm going to amalgamate Nigeria. No. Lugard was a messenger. Lugard was asked to do a job. That job he was given by legislation. So the British legislation told Lugard, it's like, I don't know, when you buy a machine, to machine work, you buy user guide or whatever it is. That's exactly what it is. Lugard didn't do anything. The only way you can actually sue Lugard or the amalgamation process itself is if they made a mistake. Now, the legislation behind Lugard is the one that I am interested in. That's it. In the United Kingdom, there are two ways in which they make legislation. There's legislation by Parliament. That's the one we all know.
Yes.
But there is also legislation by the Crown.
Yes.
Which most of us don't know. And the thing is, actually, a lot of business is done by legislation taking place in the palace, either Buckingham Palace or Windsor Palace. And the law that set up amalgamation was enacted in Windsor Castle. There were only 4 people present: the king himself and 3 members of the. Those are the only people.
I think I have a caller for you. Just a minute.
Right, okay.
Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
My name is Daniel.
Okay. Oh, okay. Calling from. Have you got a question for the for my guest?
Yes.
Okay, go on. All right. Nigerian line cut off. Can you hear me at all, Shola?
Yes, I can hear you, but I couldn't hear him.
Okay, he's going to call back. He's going to call back. The line cut off.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so I was explaining how things work here. There's 2 ways you have legislation. You have legislation by Parliament, and you have legislation by the Crown. Legislation by Parliament, you cannot take to court.
Okay.
But legislation by the Crown, you can challenge in court by judicial review. The law behind the amalgamation of Nigeria was a law that was made by the Crown. It was called the Protectorate of Nigeria Order. It was an order in council.
And that can be challenged.
So it wasn't something that was made in Parliament. It was something that was made at Windsor Castle, and that is why we can challenge it.
Okay.
So that legislation was made on the 22nd of November 1913, and within 1 month, amalgamation was done. But in fact, the law that set up the amalgamation was made by the Crown. It wasn't made by Parliament, and that is why we can attack it. Now, people have been asking me that, well, this was in 1913. It's a long time ago. We've had independence. That's the end of it. That's not how British law works. A legislation does not die unless you kill it.
Okay.
Let me repeat that again. Once you have a legislation, it lives forever unless you repeal it or you supersede it or you amend it. Now, the next important legislation for us as Nigerians is the Nigeria Independence Act of 1960. In that act of 1960, they removed a lot of the legislations that have been operating roughly between 1952 and 1959. All of those legislations were taken over by the Nigeria Independence Act of 1960. But the legislation, the order in council that created Nigeria was not touched by that legislation. Do you understand that?
Yes, very well.
So, although they had legislation to give us independence, the one thing they didn't touch at all was the order creating Nigeria. They couldn't touch it. Do you know why?
Why?
Because that is the originating jurisdiction of Nigeria. That, if you like, is the first constitution of Nigeria. It's the one thing that created Nigeria. If you touch it, then that's the end of, then Nigeria doesn't exist. Because the 1913 order made Nigeria its own copyright. You can't, anything that tampers with that legislation of 1913, the order of 1913, destroys Nigeria. Nigeria doesn't exist. The name Nigeria came from that legislation. So if you annul that legislation, Nigeria does not legally exist, because that is the legal foundation, the legal instrument that created Nigeria. That's the letter to Mr. Sunak, to say that legislation, which was done by the Crown, was unlawful,
And
unreasonable, irrational, and injurious to the Yoruba people. That's the essence. That when you look at that order that was made in November 1913, it was irrational, it was unreasonable, and it was injurious to the Yoruba people. And I gave 4 reasons why. Reason number 1 is that amalgamation was done to take money from the Yoruba people to give to the North. So that's the first thing. So it is unreasonable to take our money. It is irrational to take our money to go and give somebody else, because the British could not afford to pay for Northern Nigeria anymore. So they asked us to do it.
So that's why they merged the South and the North.
Yes.
Okay.
Because they needed our money to pay for the North. They didn't want the taxpayer. The British taxpayer doesn't want to pay for Northern Nigeria anymore. So they asked us to do it. That is unreasonable. Kilokawa.
Yes.
And it is injurious to us. It is harmful to us to take our resources, and go and give it to somebody else. So that's number one. Number two, by that order, it subjected us as Yoruba people, who are independent people, we had our own empire, we had everything. It made us subject to somebody else. That again is unreasonable. It's irrational, and it injures us as Yoruba people. The sad thing is that they didn't even ask us. So they take our money to go and give them in the north. They even took 6 million from us, to pay for the world war there. The First World War that they fought,
yes,
had absolutely nothing to do with us. They took our 6 million to pay for their debt. And not only did they take the 6 million, the interest on that 6 million, we were still paying it until the 1950s.
Wow.
Kilo World War. What is our business with World War One? Nobody was fighting us. We weren't fighting anybody. And yet, because of that 1913 order, you are able to take our money to pay for the debt for a war that had nothing to do with us.
Did our politician, our government, our reps, whatever, did they do anything about it?
You have to do it. When I'm talking, I do a lot of research. These things don't just come somewhere. It doesn't just come to you. You have to research it. You have to ask the questions. As an academic, that's what I've done most of my life. Is research things, look into things, ask questions. Every day of my life, that's what I do. I research. So until you research it, you won't find any of this out. The first thing that they did, and the reason why they did order can you imagine? You are going to amalgamate a whole lot of people who don't know anything about each other, who have absolutely, before amalgamation, we have very little contact with each other. How many Fulani or Hausa do you think a Yoruba man came across before amalgamation? How many Igbos do you think a Yoruba man came across before amalgamation? We knew nothing of each other. We had absolutely nothing in common. And yet, you do the amalgamation, you don't ask any of us any question. You don't say, do you want to be in the same country with Igbos or with Fulani and Hausa? Nobody asked us. They matched us with people that we were isolated from each other.
Nothing in common.
Sorry?
Nothing in common.
No. The River Niger had isolated all of us. We Yorubas were in our own place. The Igbos were in there. The only contact that we had with the North was in the Ilorin area. That was it. So you now joined all of, and the reason why they didn't take this case to remember I told you there are two ways of legislation.
Yes,
one is parliament, and one is the crown, the king or the queen. If they had taken the amalgamation thing to the parliament, they would have lost. Because in 1865, the parliament had decided that they didn't want to have any more settlements in West Africa. They said all the settlements in West Africa should be vacated. They don't want any more. That's why they didn't go to parliament, because they knew they wouldn't get, the parliamentarians wouldn't vote for it. So that's the false irrationality, that because they wanted to avoid parliament, that's why they did the order in council, because it allowed them to bypass parliament. Can you imagine you are going to amalgamate, different peoples. And you and the king and three others just sat in one room, and they just decided those lot, join them all together. So those are the four reasons, the 4 points that I put across to Mr. Sunak. And I also put in the letter, I put out a clause which will allow the parties to talk to each other. And my suggestion was this simple. If you constitute a select committee of parliament, we will take part in the discussions. So we wouldn't have to go to court. All you have to do, set up a select committee. We will present our case, and the government will present their case. And then we'll see what the parliamentarians decide.
Well, the follow-up question here, Oremi, is if you didn't hear from Sunak, which I'm not too sure how soon is going to reply to your letter, is it still a possibility that you want to take Sunak and the government of the UK to court?
Yes. The short answer is yes. What happens now is this. I've written to them, all right, and I've asked him in the letter. I did ask that I wanted an acknowledgement of receipt. Normally, this sort of thing, you say, reply in 14 days or reply in 21 days or whatever. But I've asked for an acknowledgement of receipt. So he will tell me that I received the letter.
Okay.
After that, he may not talk to me again. That's not a problem. We can go to court. And there are two parts to the court business. The first part is to convince the court to take the case.
Okay.
All right? Because unless the court agrees to take the case, you can't go to court. So you need to convince the court to take the case. That's part one. That will cost about £5,000. And as I've said in my tweet on this, that I don't need to fundraise for the first part, because if the court says you can't take it any further, that's the end of it. I mean, you can appeal it, but to some extent, that's the end. If the court says we don't have the jurisdiction, well, that's it.
Well, let's hypothetically say, Sunak take it up, and then we've gone to the level where you just mentioned, and at the end of the day, we won in the court. But then ultimately, don't forget that this will be a process and procedure. The procedure, then the next level will be to inform the government of Nigeria that an outcome of your suit, had successfully been adjudged to be like they have no right to control us. Now, if Nigerian government say, well, look, as far as we are there, UK cannot force us to do it because we are two countries that sovereignty involved. So if Nigeria still refuses and say, well, you can go back to them, we are not going to change our constitution. Our constitution clearly states that Nigeria is an indivisible entity, blah, blah, blah. What would be your next line of action?
Oh, Jenny, that's just nonsense. I mean, I'm coming to that, but that's just nonsense. So if the founding constitution of Nigeria is unlawful, it's unlawful. Nigerian government would then say, we don't care. This is not Abuja court. They can say that kind of rubbish in Abuja court. What happened with the Bakassi Peninsula case?
Okay.
That they were making shakara, they won't do this, they won't do. In the end, they gave up Bakassi Peninsula.
The one with Cameroon.
Yes, because the international court says Bakassi Peninsula does not belong to Nigeria. It belongs to Cameroon. Do you know how Croatia got its independence? just by Germany recognizing it.
Yes, I remember that.
Germany was the only European country that boldly recognized Croatia. What do you think happened within a month or so? All the other Western countries recognized Croatia.
Exactly. There was a flood. There was a flood of recognition.
Oh, yes.
I remember that.
It's domino.
Yeah.
Once one of them, so we go to court, and the court says Nigeria doesn't exist. So what will Britain do? So Britain will say, oh, no problem. Creating Nigeria was unlawful, but we will still carry on with Nigeria. It's not going to work. Even the parliament of the UK is not going to agree to it. Do you understand? The illusion that Nigeria is so powerful, they're so powerful that an international, that a British court will say that the name, the copyright Nigeria doesn't exist anymore. And Nigeria will say, we don't care. We've got 1999 constitution. We don't care. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. I'm not worried about that at all. Because once the court has decided that the 1913 order was unlawful, that is the end of the name Nigeria. Nigeria can't use the name anymore.
They'll make it null and void, yeah.
They can call, I mean, they can say, we don't agree, but we will call ourselves Republic of Arewa, or the Islamic Republic of, I don't know, Atlantic Ocean, or whatever it is they want to call it. It's nonsense.
That would be subject to we Yoruba people agreeing to that. What other alternative is open to Yoruba as we speak? Because we had about referendum before. We also had about area of trying to do by force. That I don't seem to understand, because if we say we want to do it by force, will you want to agree with people that are saying we have to do it by force?
Okay. There are 3 or 4 ways in which we can get Yoruba nation. We've just talked about one, which is through the courts. That through the British court. That's one, because there's another court we can go to. But anyway, through the British court, we can also go out, just looking. We can also go through the African Commission, by the way. You know, when people talk about self-determination, they're always talking about UN Charter, UN Charter. Actually, that's nonsense. The charter that we should be talking about is the African Charter. Because the African Charter was made by Africans, specifically for Africans. You understand that?
Yeah.
It is also part of Nigeria's domestic law. This is not United Nations, because the AU Charter is a domestic law of Nigeria. And the AU has its own court. So technically, you could go to the court. I'll read to you what Article 20 says. Okay? Article 20 says, all people shall have the right to existence. Have the unquestionable and inalienable right to self-determination. They shall freely determine their political status and shall pursue their economic and social development according to the policy they have freely chosen. So if we break down the words one by one, what does unquestionable mean? It means it's written in the tablet of stone. That is, self-determination is written in tablet of stone. It is above every law of Nigeria. It's above the law of Nigeria. Because Nigeria signed up to that treaty. So the African Union, Article 20, supersedes anything that Nigeria can say. And what does inalienable, what does it mean? It means no one can take it away from you.
No.
It means that self-determination is a human right.
It's part of you.
Yes. It's a human right. Nobody can. So the only thing that African Charter says you require in order to qualify for self-determination is that you have to be a people. That's it. Your group has to be defined as a people.
Even at that, Sola, we are fully qualified. We have all the necessary, the prerequisites to form a nation.
Oh yes.
We have everything.
We have the land, which is very important. The land is very important because we have been in Yoruba land since time immemorial, and we have lived there continuously, unbroken. No, we have been in the same place continuously, uninterrupted since time immemorial.
Right. Now,
sorry. Let me just finish. I just have two more points to this.
Okay, go on.
We have our own distinctive language, Yoruba.
Yes.
We have our culture. We have our tradition, which is different from everybody else. Thirdly, we have our own laws. We have our own system of government, which is different from everybody else. So those three things make us a nation, a people. We have our own land, we have our own language, custom and culture, and we have our own laws. Not only that, our laws are recognized by the colonialists. The British recognize that we have our own laws. Nigerian constitution recognizes that we have our own laws. Now, what we need to do as a people is now to find a way of selling what I've just said to the Western powers. Do you know this is what was done? This is what George Bush did when they wanted to support the breakup of Soviet Union. They said, these five criteria, if you can fulfill each one of them, we will support you to leave Soviet Union. And this is
and that's how it happened.
Yes, that's how it happened in 1991. That if you fulfill this criteria 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that Secretary of State Baker listed for them, and each one of them, including Ukraine, fulfill those criteria, that's why the Soviet Union broke up.
That was around 1990 through Gorbachev.
1991.
Yeah. Now,
so
you still want to add more? Please go ahead. Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is that let me tell you the biggest problem that we have, and I say this all the time. The biggest problem that we have is that nobody knows who the Yoruba are. Kusentomoa. You get out of the street of London, you say Nigeria, they know Nigeria. You say Yoruba, they think you are some kind of Chinese noodle.
Benny, that's true.
So one of the things we have to find a way of doing is we need to publicize Yoruba. And again, I refer to something, okay, maybe people may not agree or they might agree. I say this, there are 120,000 Yoruba people in London. Wow. The same number as Jews. Yet, the Jews have clout. They have political clout. We Yoruba have nada. We have nothing. I gave an example the other day of what happened. One of the MPs called Netanyahu a fascist. Do you know she had to come back to the house to apologize? You don't say that kind of thing about Jews. Imagine saying that about any Yoruba or any Nigerian. What will happen? Nothing. They can abuse you anytime they like. They talk rubbish about you, and nothing happens. And the reason is because we have no political clout.
At all.
At all.
And that is killing us.
Oh, of course. And these are the sort of things that we need to start looking at. How do we mobilize 120,000 Yorubas in London? And one of the things you said as a in passing earlier, which you said just in passing, was that one man engineered the exit of Britain from Europe.
That's right. Niger Farage.
Yeah, UKIP. UKIP was not a political party
At all. It's just a quick.
but because of Brexit, they formed UKIP.
Yes, as a movement.
Yeah. So why can't we do the same?
Well, he engineered it to go to Brussels, and 99.9% of his presence and his I think 7 or 8 members he took along with him, they were just discussing the business of we are leaving. Then the people got fed up and said, you know what, go back home. And in fact, from home, Cameron got tired and said, hello, the noise is becoming too loud. Let's do referendum. But you see, the difference in that, Sola, is because the provisions to go for a quick referendum is already in even though they don't have a written one, in the unwritten constitution. We don't have that.
You don't need a referendum. Let me tell you something. It is an illusion to say that you need a referendum before you can break Nigeria up. Why?
Yeah, do you say it already? Yeah, I can understand.
It's irrelevant. I mean, the Catalonians had a referendum. Spain said no.
Yeah.
The people of Southwest Sahara, what do you call the Sahrawi people?
From the Khartoum, from the Sudan, whatever, yeah.
They wanted, Morocco has blocked it. Morocco and France have now for 30 years blocked the independence of the Sahrawi people.
Yes, Sahrawi, yeah. Sola, let me take you somewhere else.
Okay.
As we speak, they're all possibilities, multiplications of ideas. You can take out, you can add. Again, I always ask anybody that comes to my program. Again, it's another hypothetical scenario.
Okay.
If Nigeria calls, we are the main. I don't want to start speaking for the Igbo or whatever. If Nigeria government calls us the next week Thursday and say, you know what, come and let us sit down and talk, but with a caveat. Are you listening? They say, let us talk. Oh yeah, before you start killing anybody, let us sit down and talk. Number one question: Will you like to participate in that kind of opportunity or call?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, what are probable demand? I can count them 1, 2, 3. What are probable demand you that agrees to lead that delegation? What are your probable demand you'll be asking for?
Independence for Yoruba land.
Yes, fantastic.
For starters, I mean, it's hypothetical. Nobody's going to ask me to lead any delegation.
Of course, that's hypothetical. I said, yeah.
Nobody's going to ask me to lead any delegation. My own is fairly straightforward.
Yes.
I really cannot understand why any country in Africa will insist on having such large population of people who don't have anything in common. I mean, you take Uganda, for example. Have 4 major ethnic groups of about 8 million people. And yet, these idiots who are leading them decide that they must keep all these 8 different ethnic groups together. Why?
I know.
Africa is so large and we only have 50 countries. We could have another 50 countries.
Yes.
We could have up to 100 countries in Africa. This sort of thing is so irritating. In 1865, these people decided to divide us. They took a pencil and they were just crisscrossing wherever they like. And we have insisted on keeping the countries that these people gave us. We have not been intelligent enough to say, These are towers of Babel. These are towers of Babel. It is time to break them up.
Yes, and to buttress what you are saying, in a civilized climate, in a place where people use their senses properly, there's nothing wrong to even come with the idea that here we are, 60 years on, we are unable to provide good governance, we are unable to provide this and that and so on. Uh, what is wrong in agreeing agree to break us into pieces and then group and then listen, you know what, where's good and because the smaller we are, the way things are. You have compared like Lithuania, Latvia, and all that kind of small
Oh, yeah.
multi, that they are able to start to develop not their people but to develop basic things of life, which because of our unnecessary contraption that we're able to make progress. But you see, then comes the issue of Shola. Then comes the issue of are we really civilized? Are we really developed set of human beings? Are we spiritually able to be able to determine to say certain things? Because again, you and I are asking that question. What is
Well, I disagree with you. I think what has happened is that power has gone to their heads. You see, when you have power, even though the power that they have is a power of illusion,
Hmm.
you know, as they say, in the country of the blind, the
One,
one is king. You know, I mean, they strut around. My son is in London, schooling in London,
yes,
a flat in Mayfair. That's what is important to them in their lives. Oh, I go to Harley Street to go and see the doctor. I practice in Harley Street. My own daughter practices in Harley Street. What is the big deal? You can't. I need a junior.
Benny.
I need a junior. You cannot see a doctor in your own country. You then come here where you'll be taking the bus on the street of London and getting on the underground to go to Harley Street to see me. I mean, I need it. One, I need a junior. That is the sad aspect of it. So when you are talking, it isn't that we are uncivilized or we have people too needed you.
Yeah, but
I mean, people go to Dubai. You go to Paris, and you are boasting, I love Paris. Tí o bá jẹ́ òpònú ni ẹ́, ìwọ ò lè gbé Paris wá sí ìlú tiẹ̀. Tó o bá jẹ́ òpònú.
because one man took civilization to Dubai. One man. You understand me? It is one man, that's one man that started this development.
Just quickly.
Go on.
When I first went to Singapore in 1970, I visited Singapore March 1970. It was like a fishing village.
Benny. Yep.
I went back about 5 years ago, which will be the third time I will be on my way to New Zealand. We dropped by and spent Christmas in Singapore. I could not believe my eyes. Not only has the place become bigger, because they recovered the sea. Because they couldn't go inland, they started recovering the sea. So in fact, the hotel and everywhere that we were was where the sea used to be. And how did they do it? Singapore used to be part of Malaysia.
Of course, one of the 9 provinces.
Yes.
Yeah.
As soon as they left Malaysia, everything changed for them. Imagine what it would be like if we Yoruba were free.
I can imagine. And I've said it, within a couple of years, we will have transformed, we will have rearranged, redesigned.
Completely.
And then let the world know that there are a certain set of people that at least know how to do things better. And one thing you referenced, that's the issue of what is the only thing that is in our head is a mini bayi, mo ti Dubai law, mo ti rale, mo ti London, mo ti gba mo shawo. You see, that again, I want to defend my argument of if we are spiritually developed like some of the Western world that will care more for their dogs. They make sure that the dogs get checkups, whether periodical or whatever. They make sure that children get a better support till the age of 16. Somebody died in this country not like 23 hours, and because of negligence of NHS, they were fined 800,000. Mo ní Nàìjíríà ọmọ yẹn kò tiẹ̀ tí ì ní kú tán fẹ́ forí ẹ̀ gún àgúnmu.
Nigeria, so you and I, we know about Awolowo.
Yes, I grew up in the house.
Cast your mind back to what happened between 1954 and 1959.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni, wonders oríṣiríṣi.
Had free primary education. We had free healthcare for those who are under the age of 21, because under the age of 21 was considered a child.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
We had television before most of Europe had television. So Awolowo is one of Olori Meji now.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
So to say that we are, it doesn't hold water. To say, as I said, I need to duty for you. How? Let me give you an example. I'm telling you, when I was a lecturer at Benin, the provost,
Vice Chancellor.
when
I mean, provost.
provost of the College of Medicine,
Yes. Oh, yeah, it was Vice. Yeah. Go on.
was lawful conference. I think he went to somewhere in Europe. He came back and then we had a meeting where he was talking to us. Do you know the only thing that this man talked about was the new film of James Bond, Ogbe Katrijera. I mean, you're sitting there that this man went to Europe, this is what is done, this is what they do, talking about James Bond. I couldn't give, I mean, this is, I'll give you another example. I can't remember his name now. He was in the Supreme Court, one of the judges of Supreme Court. Only accident. So he had a fractured femur. So he came under my care at Benin UBTH. And I wanted to do an operation on him. He agreed. But I brought my own equipment from the UK. I was in Nigeria for 18 months before I left. Anyway, that's another story. So I went home, took my equipment. By the time I came back to Benin for his operation, the provost had convinced him to go abroad to go and have this operation. That's the man who was in charge of the entire College of Medicine. Was telling the man, and I asked it. So I told the man, I said, the anesthetic machine turn low for the gas to put you to sleep. Does not use electricity. That the man who is supposed to be in charge of all of us does not even know the anesthetic machine going low electricity. To do your operation, we can do it by candlelight. And when the one of the one of the daughters of the commissioner operated on her as well.
All right.
Wọ́n gbé omi wá ni pé kò sí omi ní kíní bá omi àrà pé kò sí iná was perpetually there for me to do the operation on her. And then what did they do? They took her to Germany to go and check whether the operation that I did was correct. I'm telling you, I needed you. Look, it depends on how you are brought up. My own parents brought me up to be proud of myself, to be proud of my achievement, to be proud of what I know, to be proud of myself as a human being. And I am proud of myself. You know, I needed you. Oh, I needed you. Well, you know, Louis, I bought my first house when I was 20 in this country. I was only 26 when I bought my own house, a 3-bedroom, semi-detached house in this country. A flat in London, one shackle. And so the epitome of your entire existence, and it's the same thing. You know, you are the Oba or Aloma Ba Obìnrin Sunu Koro. When you can, I need a Juni. When you can say, bring that woman to me in my palace. Oh, I lost the Koro. To be having an affair in corner. It is lack of self-respect.
Yes.
Lack of self-worth. Yes, I'm saying.
Your device is where you are. Sola, there's another device that is functioning where you are.
No, I'm sequestered. I'm sequestered where there is no sound at all. You know, I told you I have visitors downstairs.
Yes.
So I only have my 2 phones, and they are not on.
Okay. The noise is coming from somewhere.
Not from me. Anyway, I say I needed you. It's lack of self-worth. I needed you, and you see it when you're on Twitter. You see a lot of people denigrate us as black people. It is so common, and they don't think. Without asking any question whatsoever, particularly when it comes to the history that was written by white people. This is our history, our white people local history. And every one of us accepts that what they have said is true. And it's oral history. Oral history, yeah. You know what Reverend Boy said about oral history? Only when you tell a Yoruba man a story, said when you hear him retell the story, he will have so embellished it that you wouldn't know that it was the story you told him in the first place. Exactly. So that is the oral history technique we should believe in. When you want to ask the history of your family, say ọkùnrin lè máa béèrè lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀, ọkùnrin tí ò gbọ́ nǹkan kan. You want to know the history of a family? Do you ask the man? You ask the woman. How many of the oral history ni lọ́gbà lọ́wọ́ obìnrin? Ọkùnrin tí ò rí kankan ṣe. You take oral history from a man who knows nothing. When the woman is there, who is the one who will tell? Because the culture of the British, the culture of the English is man-centered. The culture of the Yoruba is sexless. Man and woman in ancient Yoruba were regarded as equal. The man's job is to go to the farm to bring produce. The woman's job is to convert that produce into food. Ìgbà tó bá gbé ṣu wá, ìyàwó ẹ̀ ló máa sọ di àtèlùbọ́ àti because women were the food processors. There was no housewife. Our housewife, kí ló ń jẹ́ housewife? Kí ló ń jẹ́ housewife? The women did that. Their own job is to food processor. They were also the economists of the family. Ṣé báwọn ló ń ta nǹkan lọ́jà? Ọkùnrin ta nǹkan lọ́jà ni. Ọkùnrin ta nǹkan lọ́jà. Ṣé ń bọ̀ ọkùnrin ti fẹ́ rí owó? Ṣé bí ìyàwó ẹ̀ ló máa fún ẹ lówó?
Now, because of time, what would you say, presently as we speak, the state of nation, the state of Yoruba campaign, actualization campaign and campaigners? What, how will you rate? What will you say that this is the way you look at it and the present situation of this movement? How will you describe it? And also, I also want you to talk about leadership as we speak of the moment.
Okay. I'm going to be very blunt.
Go on.
Which means I'm probably going to be unpopular, but I don't care at all anyway. As I tell people, I am not
very unpopular station, and that's why you and I'm also not going to deceive you. Like I said, I don't do share. This station is not monetized, and it's not likely to be monetized. It's a station where we say the truth, we say it as it is. Whose ox is God, we cannot be bothered. So go ahead and say what you want to say.
What I usually say is this: I am already in the departure lounge of life. I'm not interested in impressing anybody. I don't need a job. I don't need anybody's money. I've reached a stage in my life that, I'm just cruising along, waiting for the register to name me. That's it. So I'm not afraid of anyone.
Same here. Same here.
And I will talk from experience. Because I wasn't really involved in the self-determination movement until November of 2021. Before then, I was my own man. I wrote what I liked. I did what I liked. My experience of the last year or so is that a lot of us are empty. A lot of things totally empty. A lot of the things that we were touting as important will not get us anywhere, will not get us 1 inch of Yoruba land. Almost everything that we were talking about was absolute nonsense. It won't get us anywhere. The only thing, and I will say this publicly, the only thing that will have got us somewhere were the court cases that we instituted at Ado-Ekiti and Osogbo. But one way or the other, that court case, people thought that, Nigerian judiciary new irọ́ àwa la bà case yẹn jẹ́, kò sí tó kan judiciary ń bẹ̀. Because the people who are supposed to support the court case didn't support it. It was too technical for them. It was too difficult. It involved too much work, too much commitment, and they weren't prepared to put in the work. They just want quick fix. Get on television or get on the news or whatever. So they didn't have the discipline. The possibility that if we had pursued those two cases properly, we will have got some. But that is past history. Anybody who thinks that we are going to get anywhere without finding a legal means, without finding a court means, a legal means to get out of Nigeria, enter India. I am a pacifist, so I'm not interested in civil war.
Can you repeat that, please?
I am a pacifist.
Yeah.
I tell you why I'm a pacifist. When I was 19, I volunteered with the Red Cross to go to Biafra to feed refugees. What I saw in Biafra made me determined that I will never support war. The suffering, the hunger, the people, the children with kwashiorkor. For what? At the end of the battle, fighting, the people who are at the top, they were still eating, they were still drinking. So I'm a pacifist.
Okay.
I don't think that there's going to be any negotiation. because we haven't got the people who are intelligent enough to negotiate anything. They're not interested, as we said right at the beginning. So we have two things that we can do. We can go to court, like the one we are talking about in London, the judicial review. We can also go to court, to the African court. So anybody who's hearing me, who's interested, if you get in touch with me, I will tell you how you can do it. But I'm not prepared to chase two things. I'm right now only interested in the 1913 order. The African Commission, if anybody is interested, if you get in touch with me, we can discuss how it can be done. The second thing we have to do, we have to publicize the Yoruba. We have to publicize the Yoruba.
The amount of awareness we have now about Yoruba is too small.
Yeah, it's non-existent. Now, let us talk about leadership. I am not a leader because nobody's elected me. I'm doing what I'm doing right now because I believe that the Yoruba are better on their own. And I could, whatever it is I can contribute, I'm prepared to contribute. That's just it. What has happened, or what happens with our so-called leaders is this. I'll tell you what happens to a lot of so-called elites and leaders. If you have an idea that might work, they will not support it because they didn't think of it first. These are the people you call leaders. That if you come up with an idea and you say, oh, this is what we should do, this is how we should the route we should take, they will oppose it, not because there's anything wrong with it, but because they didn't think of it first.
It's not their own idea.
Yes. Or if you didn't allow them to take of your idea, if you say, this is my idea, they will destroy it.
How do we solve this problem?
So I'm coming to it. So the people that you call leaders, are so small-minded. They're so small-minded that they're not worth following. I mean, you see, the Yorubas were very, very clever people, you know. That's one of the things that's Onoko Woja. That is, there are many ways of skinning the cat, not just one. And my own view is simple: that if people have genuine ideas that could bring us out of Nigeria, then they're worth supporting. For example, when we went to court in Ekiti and Osun, the Mega Rally USA, Nigerian Diaspora Mega Rally USA, that's what they are called, they donated a large sum of money for us to pay the lawyer because they saw that this was a community case. This wasn't just an Ilana case. This case involved all of us. And they were quite gracious to say, fantastic, we will support you with money. Here is money, go and pay the lawyer. And that's what we need to do. We need to forget about leaders. We need to look at people who have ideas that can work and say, okay, you want to go to court? How much is it going to cost? This is the lawyer. Let's pay the lawyer. Let's see what happens. But if we are looking for a messiah, we will look forever. I mean, you know, I'm on so many WhatsApp groups. I'm on Twitter, on Telegram, and you hear all these people praising one person over another. And I tell them this, that there are no angels in hell. There are no angels in hell. Nigeria is hell. There is no Messiah that is going to come out of Nigeria. Anybody who's waiting for a Messiah to come out of Nigeria, you wait forever. If a country has existed over 60 years and has not got it right, a country has existed for over 100 years and it hasn't got it right, it will never get it right.
That's true.
It will never get it right. So the idea that some person is there who is going to solve Nigeria's problem, the only solution to the problem of Nigerians, whether they are north or south or east or west, is dissolution of Nigeria. That is the only thing that will help everybody. Now, when you talk Yoruba nation, people think that it is only going to benefit the Yoruba. No. It's going to benefit every single Nigerian. When Nigeria is broken up into its component parts, every single one of us will benefit. So that's my own personal view. I don't think, I think we've wasted, in my view, the year or so that I've been involved in this has been wasted. And I think we really need to refocus. We have no strategy. We have no blueprint. We have no roadmap. We have nothing. And everybody is talking. Nobody seems to say, what is the strategy?
Well, sorry to interrupt you. That was the question I asked. I'm sorry to take you back. We have gone through that before. What was the question I first asked when the Duke Onitiri saga, came in, and then she asked for the 5 million register, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That was done. The question I asked 2 weeks after was, Kilafefi Atiri 5 million according to her, because the Bama manage the website here. What do we do with it? Shall
Okay.
I
actually wrote an essay on it.
Yes. Some people just jump on me. They just pounce on me. It's part of what you have been talking about. How dare me to ask that question? If we got it, what do we? It's because it's a tool. What do we do with it?
Exactly. But in fact, I wrote a piece that I posted on Twitter, and I think I posted it on WhatsApp as well, to say what I will do with the 5 million signature. For example, right now, I have my own petition, which is going to Guterres, the UN Secretary General. I've written a petition to him. I'm waiting to have 10,000 signatures. I already have over 9,000 signatures right now.
Wow.
When it is 10,000, I am going to physically take the petition to him to say, we Yoruba, this is 10,000 of us. This is what we have signed. This is what we want to do. You can write a letter directly to the UN yourself.
Oh yes.
You don't need anybody. So I'm waiting for until it becomes 10,000 signatures, and then I'm going to take it myself personally, and let the people in this country, let Sunak and co know, let Biden know. This is a petition that has been written to the UN. It's been signed by 10,000 of us. We are Yoruba descendants, and we say our Yoruba nation. That's what you do. That's what you do. There's no point in having a petition and then you don't give it to anybody. What's the point? The petition has to go to somebody, which was the point I was trying to make. You can't just say, we've got the petition, we've signed it, that's it. We are going to act on it ourselves. No, it's got to go to somebody. Somebody has to be the recipient.
That's true.
So the petition that I have prepared, which is for the United Nations, to the Secretary General of the United Nations, when it's past 10,000, I'm going to get it to him. I'm not saying he's going to do anything with it, but he will have that petition.
Yep.
And I will also be able to publicize it to say, well, I've given, we've signed a petition, we've sent it to him. So that's where we are. I mean, what I will encourage everybody to do is this: whatever it is you can do to help Yoruba nation, please, for God's sake, do it.
Please.
There's no formula. Nobody knows what's going to work. Everybody, anything you can think of, do it, as long as it's lawful. In my view, the most important thing is that whatever it is you do is legal, is lawful. But by all means, everybody do whatever it is you think you can do. If you think mega rally is it, do it.
That takes me to another area of what I really want to discuss with you. You and I know that media is the fourth rail of governance anywhere in the whole world, and a very bad and weak media usually can have effect on developmental growth of a country. How will you rate the media? I know you've been to media, not going particular about anybody. How will you rate the Yoruba nation media? What do you think? Come out, say straight.
Okay. Well, the media at home, I don't know anything about them. I have nothing to do with them.
But the one in Europe,
when we had the court case in Ekiti and Ekiti and Osogbo, and we tried to engage them, it was either you gave money. Anyway, don't let's go into it. Anyway, they weren't interested. So that's the end of it. The only person who was really very active getting the news out was Koiki Media. He was there at the courthouse. He had his people there, and so on and so forth. Apart from that, the Nigerian media were not interested. What is a bigger story in a country than somebody challenging the 1999 Constitution? They were not interested. They are just puffed up, talk rubbish. Now, our media in Europe, again, I'm going to be blunt, we are too introspective.
Introspective.
We talk to ourselves.
We're not talking to the people.
We need to talk outside of us. Remember what I said? We need to sell the Yoruba people.
Yes.
One of the points that Heritage TV was making, which was one of the things we tried to do as Ilana UK, was having debates, like in Chatham House, Oxford Union, to try and get some kind of debate which will attract British media. Because until we get these things onto the front page of newspapers, we are not going to get anywhere. We are not going to get anywhere. And this is what I will implore our media people here to do. I mean, for example, this question of letter to Mr. Sunak, I don't see why when there's a press conference in 10 Downing Street that we don't have our own people there asking questions. Did you get this letter? What have you responded? So that it isn't left to me alone to be fighting it. You guys out there can do the fighting. You can go to Downing Street and say, why have you not responded? That this letter was written to you. What is your response? Then you will be doing something as media people, instead of just talking to us and you go on to listen to some, they're abusing each other. I mean, for God's sake. It's just terrible. What we want, as I said, is we need to publicize the Yoruba people. You guys come together. Even if you only sponsor one or two people to be present every time there's a press conference at Downing Street to ask questions, to ask the Prime Minister questions, what are you doing about Yoruba self-determination? Until we do that, we will never ever get anybody to know who we are.
I'll give that
So
to
sorry?
yeah, I'll give that to you. You are right, because like you said, as it is, I hardly have had any European country getting involved or even talking or making reference to our struggle. And I think you are right. I want to give that to you, that we are not doing enough to promote, to sensitize the world about what we are doing, and that is a deficit. That's a shortfall. I'll agree with you. You're right. Uh, because of time, I've asked for about 1 hour and a half. I've even taken 10 minutes more. I'm happy to tell our viewers that the last 1 hour and 40 minutes, I had one of the main is there. He doesn't want to be a leader. That's fine. But one of the main activists, one of the believer. You see, because it's one thing. I said this to people also, that at my age, you use the word departure land. We are, on the, hopefully we're not going to be on the same flight, but the way it is, yeah. I have devoted the rest of my life to fight this cause, and I have no doubt in my mind that it's a journey that the first 1,000 miles, the first mile have been covered, 20 miles. In fact, we are closer than what we think, because it's going to happen any which way. There cannot be any going back. And I've coined two phrases. One of them is Pamisakpere. And that takes me, if I ask you, do you think because Pamisakpere and Nipe come and vote, what's your take on, do you think the election of next month or whatever, or this month, is it is going to have any impact on our journey?
What election? In the north, they are giving the PVC to children.
Yes. Pamisakpere.
All of you in the south, you are making banku banku. You are fighting each other to get PVC. You are this, that, and in the north, they are giving the PVC to children.
Yes.
Since 1959, there is no election in Nigeria that has not been rigged.
Benny.
These people already know who the president is going to be. You are going to vote. They already know. The people who run Nigeria already know who the president is going to be. They already know it.
Yes.
And look at it. There are what? There are two more states in the north than in the south. So the north alone can elect the president.
Benny.
It's stupid. Stupid. Yes. I'm listening.
And that's why I say to some people that when you look at it, the majority of the local government is in the is in the north. And even if you want to follow the process and procedure of wanting to change the constitution, the likelihood that we are going to fail is very, very high, because they will always form the majority. You know, I hope some people who are listening to us today have learned one or two things from this erudite Nigerian Yoruba man, and I'm very proud of you. And like I said, we've come a long way. Presently, as an old man, what are you doing? I know you have work for a living. What is your main preoccupation? What exactly do you do now? Monday to Friday?
Okay. Right now, I'm very busy preparing my allotment. I don't know if you know what an allotment is.
Of course, I have a rough idea.
It's a small patch of land.
Yes.
I'm preparing now the land. I go there about 8 o'clock in the morning, spend a couple of hours. So I'm digging, getting the soil prepared, because planting starts next month.
Okay.
So, I'm planting peppers, tomatoes, carrots, onions, that sort of things that we eat. So I'm planting all those. So I'm working on that. And the reason why I have to do it is because every day I spend researching on our problem. Every day. I'm researching, I'm writing every single day, to the extent the family, they've just given me up now completely. I mean, for example, tonight I have guests downstairs. This thing started when we were having dinner,
Yes, thank
and
you.
they're still there.
Yeah, I appreciate you for that.
When I go down now, nobody's going to talk to me for a while.
That is pé ọ̀rẹ́ ọ̀tún Ọlábọ̀dé Òṣèré ló take it come and be no. Now, let's round up because I genuinely want to appreciate you. Hope next time when I come your way, as usual, you create time. Just let it be the time is not going to be to Malalejo. But look at your diary and say, no, this because you told me your Saturday is usually busy, especially when it comes to area of sport.
And yesterday we won.
Congrats. For some reasons, I have nothing to. The only sport I love so much is it used to be boxing, but then I changed it to lawn tennis and swimming.
No. Mine is football, I'm afraid. Football is Saturday is devoted to football, I'm afraid.
I have nothing against that. Continue. So thank you very much, Shola.
It's a pleasure.
Shola Oni.
It's a pleasure.
A staunch believer and member of this organization.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So, viewers, I hope you've learned or picked something from Shola Oni, who has been in the business, he knows what he's doing. And Modukwalo, everybody. Eshe, thank you very much, Shola.
Thank you very much.
Regards to your family.
And you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.